Ladies, gentlemen, fellow Mandalorians out there, welcome to my Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 3 recap, review, and breakdown. And this episode started off with a really strong start. And then we actually take a big detour in this episode, and it's funny because I was talking last episode about how there's a bit of a formula to Mando, and I was hoping that last episode when we went to Mos Eisley Spaceport to see Peli Motto briefly, that kind of felt like, this is the pit stop in where, you know, before we carry on with the main plot, we need to refuel for a bit before, you know, truly getting to the next big thing. And it didn't happen. But this episode, it started off with Mando and Bo Katan, but we did kind of have a pit stop, albeit what I want to say is a very enjoyable one, which brought us to a post-Empire Coruscant, which was fantastic to see, and giving us the perspective of ex-imperials being reintegrated into the New Republic, and it turned out to be quite a dark story that could be building towards something in the future. So let's go through the events of this episode. If you go on to enjoy this video, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that like button. You guys really helped out on the previous Mando video. I said that we weren't getting so many views or anything like that, but you guys definitely showed up and made it a lot more successful than the previous week. So if you could do the same, that would be fantastic. I really appreciate your support here, and I can't wait to see and hear what you guys have to say about this episode. So obviously right at the beginning, we pick up right where we left off with Bo Katan just kind of sitting there like, damn. And I had a few thoughts last episode, and I said that I didn't think that Bo Katan was going to be like all out evil, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, but I have been sensing that maybe, just maybe, she might have an ulterior motive with, you know, getting back her power. I don't think it's like full-on greed, but she has been sulking on her throne in her castle, which is, you know, turns out to now be destroyed. Lost all of her Mandalorian followers, but now she has seen potential at the end of last episode with that of the Mythosaur. And obviously, the Darksaber is a very important aspect to ruling the Mandalorian people, but if you compare that to myths and legends of Mandalore and how he tamed the beast, she's probably thinking, hey, what if, just maybe what if, that's if I can, do something about this and maybe use the Mythosaur to maybe assert my claim. But this is where Bo Katan says, you see anything down there? The bombings from the Purge must have caused some seismic activity because the waters were never that deep, which obviously reveals how the Mythosaur even got there in the first place. I mean, I don't know if that means it was living underground in a cavern system or something, and then the seismic activity just opened it up to a much bigger place, and now it just chills out there. But again, she's like, did you see anything alive? And he's just like what? And she's like, nothing, nothing. So, yeah, I don't know. You know, I do like Bo Katan. I know she is honorable, but this is certainly cooking up something that is fairly spicy, in my opinion. Again, they left Mandalore, so she didn't obviously tame him there and then. And in of itself, that would be a very huge task to even be able to pull off just by yourself. But the fact she's being sneaky, keeping that from Din Djarin, you can't deny that there's some kind of ulterior motive going on there, because if you think that there isn't, then it's just like, why not tell him? Just be like, hey, you know the legends of the Mythosaur? Like, there's one literally down there, Din. How cool is that? The fact that she didn't tell him means there is something else going on. I'm not saying it's insanely diabolical, but we'll talk a little bit more about this at the end. So this is where we have some TIE interceptors jump on their tail, and this was really impressive. I mean, dogfight space battles are always entertaining. Like, I enjoyed the one we got in episode 1 with the pirates, but this for sure turned into a much more impressive demonstration, because obviously you had the TIE interceptors and we had Mando literally jump out the ship, jetpack his way down to his N1 starfighter and get in there just in time. It was just really fast pacing. I really enjoyed the really big backup of the score here. It just made it that much more impactful and intense. Initially, they thought it was due to Bo Katan pissing off a lot of Imperial warlords, but when the TIE bombers started arriving, it seemed like something else was going on. So we have Bo Katan's home and castle blown up, and then you have like 13 to 15 or so TIE interceptors arrive in backup, and I don't know if this is building to something more, or if it's just meant to be like, the Empire actually are really pissed at Bo Katan, and there's a little, sect out there, and they're just trying to get their revenge on her. I don't know if this is building to something bigger. Let me know if you think it is, or if they just wanted to simply really, give her the middle finger and destroy her home, because I'm sure she's destroyed lots of useful things to that of the Empire, and maybe they just want some simple, sweet revenge. This is where they jump into hyperspace, and we don't see them again until the end of the episode, and the majority of this episode from here on out takes place on Coruscant with Dr. Pershing and an ex-imperial of whom served with Moff Gideon, and actually G68, was it? Elia Kane had crossed paths with Dr. Pershing before, and I'm telling you, maybe it was very obvious to most people. From the second I saw her, I was just like, yeah, I don't know about this. But it was fantastic seeing, again, a New Republic Coruscant. It is kind of cool seeing it in Andor at that period of time, and then just contrasting it to the way things are now. I don't think we've ever properly seen what life is like for Imperials in a New Republic era. I thought it was super interesting in how they have this kind of amnesty program. I mean, obviously, everyone who was working for the Empire, not everyone, should I say, was exactly enjoying it. Obviously, not everyone wants to work for them, but they're breathing down your neck. So it's really cool seeing the perspective of characters just like that. Initially, we see him talk about his cloning research, and he speaks of his mother and how if simple organ cloning had been available on his homeworld, her death would have been preventable. So Dr. Pershing, albeit, he worked for the Empire, he did have a good motivation behind his research, even though cloning and genetics is still, as we find out, very against the New Republic's rules because of the ethics of it. But this is what I found interesting as well. Even though it was a day in the life of this second chance in the New Republic, as he says at the beginning, you see that he's living a pretty purposeless life. Even seeing scenes that help narrate the way the character's feeling and the way the character Dr. Pershing is steering towards throughout the episode, with moments like how they're archiving or destroying some Imperial technology, and he's like, but why? Like, we could use this. If I could just maybe raise this, and they're just like, we're very busy down here. Basically, just do your job. I did find it funny when he was speaking to the other amnesty officers about Moff Gideon, and then we had these tales of what could have happened to him, saying, I heard he escaped the route to the war tribunal, and others were saying that was just a cover story. I heard they hooked him up to a mind flayer, and that was a bit of foreshadowing to the kind of low-key mind flayer that the New Republic is using towards the end of the episode. It's basically just turned down a bit, but it is exactly that, which just show that the New Republic, and this is something that has been coming out a bit more in recent years in Star Wars, and in Andor, like with the Rebels and what they're willing to do, they also do kind of use some, sketchy methods. But back to Moff Gideon, I'm pretty damn sure that Giancarlo Esposito is supposed to be appearing this season, so maybe we're going to see him soon if we're talking about him a little bit more in this episode. Obviously, that doesn't really correlate, but it would be pretty cool to see him pop up. Maybe we will actually see that War Tribunal, or maybe what was happening with Elia Kane and her sadistic kind of motivations this episode had something to do with still serving him. And Elia Kane, man, I'm just kind of questioning, what was she really doing this episode? I know at the end we had that New Republic officer basically saying, I'm glad we have people like you. It's kind of like she was enlisted to, weed out the people who are actually going to, go against the New Republic. But what was frustrating about that, if that really is what she is doing, she was encouraging him the whole time. But you could say that it's a bit of a test, and that is what her role is in the New Republic. So it could be a legitimate thing and a job role that she has that she's not telling any of the other amnesty officers about. I mean, obviously there's the sadistic side to her where she just turned it all the way up and it basically fried his mind. And again, that could be maybe out of loyalty to Moff Gideon and keeping the Empire's secrets secret, or trying to prevent him from being helpful to the New Republic, possibly. But yeah, I'm just wondering if it was a test that the New Republic actually gave her the objective of doing, saying, hey, there's going to be new amnesty, Imperial, ex-Imperial people coming in, tempt them, see if they take the bait. If they do, then we've weeded them out and we can use the Mind Flayer on them. I would love to know your opinion about that, because obviously in their conversations throughout this episode, we had Dr. Pershing saying that all of his research going unfinished, they were close to a breakthrough. In the right hands, their discoveries could have helped a lot of people. And she's just like, why not carry it on? You know, like, I can help you. I can get you a lab. I can get you this. Like, she's literally, you know, really baiting him into it. So I don't know if I'm being stupid here because of the speculation I'm giving, but I would love to know your guys' opinion. Do you think she's recruited on the sly, officially by the New Republic, to weed out other people with the objective of tempting them? And that kind of makes sense to me in a certain way of speaking, because if you tempt them and they take the bait, then it does show that they maybe have some sketchy, you know, loyalty to maybe continuing Empire/Imperial activity. So again, this could be like a legit objective on the sly that they've given her to try and tempt people with, and thus if they refuse the temptations and pass the test, then they really, you know, have been rehabilitated into the New Republic system. Or do you think she actually did betray him? This is the other alternative that is also believable, where she tempted him, wanted to get him into this situation, on the sly went behind his back, told the New Republic, hey, this guy's doing this, he's been telling me all about this, and I've been playing along, but, you know, I thought I should tell you, and then she kind of gets rewarded for it. It could be that way, so she kind of props herself up in the system, because this is another thing with Elia Kane and probably Imperials who were indoctrinated in the Empire, especially Imperials like her. They probably know nothing else other than rising in status, especially if you trained at the Imperial Academy on Coruscant. So she's kind of doing, if it is this second theory, and she did rat him out and try to prop herself up to the New Republic, it could have all been a low-key effort to just give herself more status. Even if she's not in the Empire anymore, she's making the best of what she can, even if she's sticking true to her sadistic Imperial ways, like what we saw at the end, where she's just so cold and stone-faced and basically tortures him, which is just ironic and really the tragedy of the characters, or the character Dr. Pershing in this episode, and the tragedy of the New Republic, because you have that New Republic officer or whatever at the end being like, it's good that it works on people like you, you know, that you're a good example of an ex-Imperial coming in, but really what you've allowed in is a wolf in sheep's clothing, and the real guy on the table who actually has a bit of a good heart. Obviously cloning with the genetic thing and unethical side of things is questionable, but he has good motivations. That guy is getting blasted. So even the New Republic are potentially being deceived here. That is if you believe in more of the ratting out Dr. Pershing theory, rather than them actually hiring her to do that. And I actually don't mind which way it goes, because either theory you look at is pretty bad, but maybe more people would favor the New Republic actually discreetly hiring her to tempt ex-Imperials to betray the New Republic in some way, shape, or form, because it just shows that the New Republic, like I mentioned, we've seen in recent years, have got some shady and unethical sides to them as well, that they keep close under wraps, and on the surface, it looks like utopia and liberation, but it's not always as transparent as that. So as they were on their way to the shipyards, I love how we had that, I can't remember the name of the track, but you know when in episode 3, Anakin's going into the Senate, and we have that tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise moment, and you hear that oh kind of music. I love that coming in. We obviously had them jump off the train. Very lucky that they kind of landed on a big ass kind of mattress thing. But in this moment, when they actually entered the Star Destroyer, I don't know if anyone else got this feeling, but with the lighting, the flashlights, I thought this would be such a cool premise for like a Star Wars horror thing. But yeah, ultimately, this is where the New Republic officers came in. It was all a setup, and he got taken, and of course there was Mon Calamari. It's a trap joke. Never gets old, to be honest. I have no idea why there isn't any kind of CCTV in the Star Wars universe to the point of where she can get away with turning it up into overdrive. Even after this, you know, would there not be an investigation into why his mind is completely fried? Surely the data would show that it got turned up to max. Who else was in the room? It's pretty easy to single out who that was, but that won't get addressed. It's not like a huge issue, but little things do bug me like that. Like maybe you could argue that the New Republic don't care about Dr. Pershing. They'll just write it off to the machine, I don't know, going haywire. But yeah, rip Dr. Pershing. Maybe we'll see him again, but maybe his mind will be completely fried. And at the end of the episode, Bo Katan and Mando head to his Mandalorian covert. This is how they survived in exile, and it's a secret location, and she kind of has to, or at least as he says, it'll go a lot smoother if you kept your helmet on. He goes in, proves to the armorer that he's got the living waters, as we've already been over. He is now redeemed, and funnily enough, so is Bo Katan. She technically bathed in the waters. She hasn't taken her helmet off since then. So by creed, she is a part of the old ways, like the Mandalorians' creed, even though she has her opinions about it. But what would be interesting and unexpected is if she actually starts digging in. Now, I've already laid out at the beginning of this video my theories of how she kind of might just make do with this current tribe that she's with. Obviously, as I've said time and time again, she had strong words about these religious zealots and that they're pretty crazy. But again, it'd be pretty cool to see her actually enjoy this tribe. She's had her other Mandalorians leave her, so she's now got these other Mandalorians literally welcoming her in, you know, patting her on the shoulder. So what if she enjoys that? And when the camera was panning into her helmet, you kind of did have that like little internal monologue that wasn't spoken of. Maybe she's thinking, if I tame the Mythosaur, maybe all of these people will follow me and not the armorer, maybe. But again, it's easy to get, you know, carried away with speculation there. But 100%, like the Mythosaur thing isn't just going to remain, you know, completely closed off, even though we've left the planet and they flew away. You have to think we're going to revisit that. But I have to admit, I don't know when, I don't know how, but I'm certainly intrigued as to what is going on in Bo Katan's mind. And you know it is playing on her mind because one of the final shots was none other than the Mythosaur little emblem crest on the wall, if you will. And it is basically foreshadowing that, hey, I'm going back, and maybe all these people might really dig it, especially if they're the religious zealot type. You know, it's kind of myth and legend about the Mythosaur. These religious zealot types are going to follow me if I can prove to them that I freaking found one and I'm freaking riding on the back of one. But honestly, from here on out, I am super pumped. The kind of climate that we're working with from here on out in The Mandalorian Season 3 seems to set up a really exciting one. People love Bo Katan with Katie Sackhoff. I really do as well. It seems that she's going to be in it pretty regularly from here on out. She's now a part of Mando's creed. He's redeemed. She's now redeemed. You have to think this is where we're going to steer a lot more into a lot more Mandalorian action, a lot more scenes with Mandalorians in it, and that is just because of the mere fact that now that Din Djarin is back with his Mandalorian covert, I think this is what we're going to see, having been teased by Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, where there's a lot more Mandalorians this season, and from here on out, I expect to see that, and Bo Katan, but maybe a bit of drama. I know there's a theory that all the Mandalorians are going to unite. Maybe that will be the case ultimately, but will it be under her banner? Will they kind of look at her and be like, well, we don't really want to follow her, but we can't deny what she's accomplished with the Mythosaur. There's so many ideas, so many directions. So first and foremost, would love your thoughts on this episode, but let me know your theories for what lies ahead, the potential, the different avenues things could go down. Is the Darksaber irrelevant now if the Mythosaur is here? I know that was a bit of a question from last week, but things are certainly cooking in that direction. So really can't wait to see what you have to say. I would really appreciate a like on this video if you did enjoy it, guys. Maybe consider subscribing as well if you found yourself new here. I do cover The Mandalorian, and I'm going to cover future Star Wars content on the channel. So hopefully you enjoy that, and hopefully you'll enjoy some other content on this channel as well. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen and fellow Mandalorians out there, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and may the Force be with you always.